This is Omar here with CIT. For those of you who are new with CIT this year, I'm the VP of Sales and Business Development. Joining us today from CIT is Alexis Bailey, Director of Customer Relations. And from Republic Bank's team, I'm pleased to announce the great Carter Dempsey. Carter is the VP and Director of the Independent Tax Division at Republic Bank. He's joined by several of his other members from Republic Bank team he'll introduce shortly. Before I hand it off to Carter, I want to thank you all for joining. Alexis will now take over and just say a few words, including some of the rules of this webinar. And again, I'm really happy to have everyone here.
Hey, everyone. We're super excited to share the up-and-coming changes for the 2023 tax season. Republic's been working diligently to be able to offer the most cost-effective products in the industry, and we think you're going to be very excited with the new options available. As always, CIT and Republic Bank's partnership, we're invested in your business. The CIT model has remained consistent since the beginning by being the lowest cost tax product option for tax pros. With these uncertain times, we want to rest assure you our program for this coming year is remaining the same great pricing model at $15 per return. Directly following this webinar, we're going to spin the wheel to find out our lucky 2 winners of the Amazon gift cards. If your name is selected, we will ask you to either raise your hand or send in a message so we know you're actively participating. Once the drawing is complete, we will have time for you to ask any questions you may have and receive answers from either CIT or the bank team. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Carter.
Hey, everybody. Omar, Alexis, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here, and we're especially excited because we actually have some new stuff we're doing, which always makes you guys happy. And some of it shows that we listened to your feedback. So without further ado, Republic Bank, community income tax partners and professionals, welcome. And let's get started, talk a little bit about what we got for this next year. So first and foremost, let's talk about the team. We do have a new addition to the team as well. So as I said, Carter, the goofy guy in the far left-hand corner, that's me. The much less goofy looking person next to me, Margie, is the sales manager. Alan Keeling, slightly less goofy than me, but still goofy, as our service bureau manager as well. And then we have Lo, who's an account executive too. And then Elba Torres just started with us in the past few months. Unfortunately, we didn't get her picture up there, but she's a part of the tax office relationship support team as well. So just to keep in mind, we typically handle the tier 2 issues. We interact directly with Alexis and Omar to solve your issues, but we do have frontline customer service, offsite and on-site as well, team of hundreds of people. So we're more than happy to assist you in the upcoming year. And these are primarily people you deal with. I'm sorry to subject you to that picture of myself, but it's just so you know who I am. So let's kind of go forward and talk a little bit about Republic. So for many of you who I recognize, you've used Republic for a while, so you already kind of know what makes Republic Republic. But for those of you that just started this past year, just to give you an idea about us, we process millions of taxpayer refunds each year through thousands of offices. We are one of the largest processors in the industry by far. We have been in business for more than 2 decades, really about 25, 26 years. We have a lot of long-term established relationships, and heroes continue to use Republic Bank year after year. We're passionate about support. We believe we have a servant's soul, a servant's heart to assist you in your business and growth. We do pride ourselves in being timely and consistent in our fee processing, the release of checks, and the tax prep fee deposits. We do have strong relationships, as with CIT. What's interesting is of course, CIT has some things that nobody else has, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We do have a little preferential treatment from time to time, and CIT is definitely checks the box there. Our check printing is quick and efficient, although we all know checks were the least amount of issuances in this past year. We do have tier 1, tier 2 support. We have a consistent easy advance program or programs. You'll see that there's a little bit of flavor in it this season. And we'll talk about more specifics as we go along, but we do have the best approval rate and average loan in the industry. So it's good that you're with us because you are taking advantage of the best loan program out there. So just our commitment to you. We're here for you today. We're here for you tomorrow. And we're committing offering you, CIT Heroes, our tax products in a fair and responsible manner, and that consumers are presented clear choices in making their decision. As a stakeholder in the financial services industry, we endeavor to promote integrity throughout our program. And that's one of the reasons why we're happy to work with CIT, because as many providers in the marketplace are dramatically increasing pricing, CIT has stayed committed to offering the most reasonable pricing out there. And if you don't know, that is actually saying something this season as opposed to other seasons, because many of the transmitters have dramatically increased pricings and add-ons for this upcoming year. So you being with CIT is more valuable to you now than ever to your pocketbook. So let's go on and talk about some of the things that we'll discuss today, some of the highlights we'll discuss. And of course, we'll address particular questions as we get towards the end as well. So we're really going to talk about 4 things in addition to the new things that we're offering this next season. That's right, I said new things. Our pre-ac easy advance, the easy advance, pre-wrap, and wrap. Now, they may not be necessarily in the order in which you take advantage, but they're definitely all important to you. So to start off, let's go into the easy advance. Again, for many of you that have used us for a long time, this is revisiting things you know, but for those of you, it was your first year this past season, you know, the easy advance is secured by a taxpayer's refund to eligible applicants. There are fees that apply. The loan is repaid by the federal and state return, and it starts, the easy advance itself, not the pre-ac, starts on the first day of hub testing or the controlled launch. Essentially, we have to receive an IRS acknowledgement in order to provide the regular advance, and those run through February 28th. Our advance goes up to $6,000, and for most of the tiers this year, it is a shared cost between the ERO and taxpayer in order to offer an advance amount that high. Now, the pre-ac is essentially the same as the advance with one exception. That is pre-IRS acknowledgement, in which we provide loans as well. It will start early January this next season, akin to previous seasons. I can assure you that no other provider will provide it earlier than we do. But as we kind of iron out those first dates, whether it's the first or the second, we haven't necessarily ironed out yet, but we can assure you that no one will be offering it sooner than you will in the marketplace. And with the pre-ac, there is a surcharge over the easy advance as well. If opted in, we just like to share that as well. It is available for all disbursement types. And as I said, I will get into some more specific numbers as we go along, but we do have the highest average advance amount and approval percentage in the industry. And we allow taxpayers to choose their advance amount based on their eligibility. So let's actually look at the graph here a little bit. It'll give away a little bit of a secret of one of the things we're doing this next season too, if you're paying attention. So essentially, our most popular option for the advance is what you guys take part in, which is the Easy Advance Plus option. It is a shared cost between the ERO and taxpayer, and the net refund, which is the refund minus fees, determines what the taxpayer is eligible for to apply for, to all the way down to the bottom amount. So for instance, let's say that a taxpayer has a net refund of $6,999.99, right? That taxpayer would have the ability to apply for, $7,000. Let's say that taxpayer, wants to apply for the $6,000 option. They have the ability to apply for that or any amount less than that based on what it is they need. But the minimum net refund determines the amount they can apply for. But you yourself, the preparer in the software, see a drop down where you can choose any of those amounts. Alternatively, if their net refund is $3,000, they would be able to apply for the $2,000, $1,500, $500, right? So you really are providing those options to your taxpayers based on their refund minus fees. Now, there are a couple things interesting. about Republic that sets us apart from our competition. One is we have an APR fee of 35.99%, but at a fixed amount of days. So what's unique about Republic Euros, specifically CIT Euros, is the amount that you disclose in the fee for their loan, if there is a fee. I'll come back to that. It is going to be the same upon funding, regardless of how many days they fund, as when they applied. The other banks can't say that. Their days float. So although they may have a fixed APR, the amount of days in funding changes. So they disclose at 25 days. So the taxpayer sits down in front of that ERO. They disclose that the fee for this particular advance would cost this. And then if that taxpayer happened to fund in 45 or 60 days, well, then the APR continues to calculate based on the amount of days of funding, and that taxpayer actually pays more for the advance than what they were originally disclosed. That clearly creates some issues for you in your relationship with your taxpayer, but not here at Republic. So we do also do counters, which means that if the taxpayer was to apply for $4,500, yet their probability of their return funding was below 96%, they may be approved for $1,500 or $2,000 in order to ensure that they can still get a loan, but that we're approving them for the maximum amount that we can, assuming the return criteria. And then if you notice, there's a couple things different from all you people who have been using Republic in prior years on this spreadsheet. Normally, you see the finance charges associated with each advance amount. If you notice, curiously absent for the 500 and 1,000 is that there is no finance charge to the taxpayer. So I'll circle back around that a little later, but just wanted to point that out. So let's talk a little more about the pre-act, which if you notice, many of you didn't offer as many pre-acts last year because the IRS started e-file earlier than the year previous. The year previous, e-file started February 12th. This year, we do not know when the IRS intends to open e-file or hub testing, but the second we do, we let Omar and Alexis know, and then they share it with you. They typically announce that around the December timeframe. So we believe that they will still adhere to an early schedule as of last year, but we're not 100% sure as of right now. So the pre-act is simply an advance that's provided prior to the IRS acknowledgement. And the underwriting criteria is the exact same for our pre-act to our post-act. So one of the things that's so unique and sets the CIT EROs apart from any other EROs in the industry not using Republican CIT is that we had an 89% pre-act EA approval this past season. I don't know if you know about average approvals, but that's out of the box. Your average bank typically sits at about a 70% approval, and that's weighted based on how many taxpayers you have coming back to you from the prior year versus taxpayers that came to you that didn't use you in the prior year. So alternatively, our no experience approval, so taxpayers that came into EROs for the first time this year, was almost 70%. And typically that hovers around 40%. Now, our program performance is based on funding. And the funding for the past couple of years has been pretty decent as it relates to the loan. So that helps us deliver a better loan program to you, and funding is outpacing this season versus last season, which only means things can get better. It's not a worse situation, yet better. So our advance goes up to $6,000. Again, we had an 89% approval for the pre-act and the pre-act EA. I believe we were 88% approval on the EA, but that was a circumstance of the returns because there is no difference in the underwriting criteria. And then based on several feedback that we received from some of the larger players in the industry on their snapshots from their bank, it appears that our average EA amount was several $100s higher than the competitors. So that means that you're offering a better loan than people next to you, right? And then, as I said before, taxpayers can choose any EA amount they're eligible for. Checks hit the street within minutes of the receipt of the tax return and bank application. I'm sure Omar and Alexis can attest to that Republic is the first bank to get checks on the street every single year. And we send out the ACHs relatively quick as well. Now, you're still dealing with the limitations of financial institutions to post that to account, but it's something we're very good at. Now, The pre-ac is something that you opt in for through our site. You enroll through CIT to participate in the advance, but you must opt in from our site to participate in the pre-ac. Please remember that, because many people will enroll and automatically assume they have the pre-ac. Not so. Beginning November 1st, you can go onto our website and opt in for the pre-ac. Now, the only other thing is that some people really try to be careful about their cost, right? If there's not as much of a push for the taxpayer to get the loan as soon as possible, they may choose the EA versus the pre-ac. So once hub testing starts, when the Easy Advance normally starts, our pre-ac will go all the way through the first day of official e-file, because hub testing is so intermittent and there are downtimes and then nights and weekends and Martin Luther King, right? So we run the pre-ac all the way through that. Now, offices that are not pushing to get those loans as fast may go opt out of the pre-ac when hub testing starts to just get advances once the acknowledgement's provided. It will slow it down because it's dependent on the AC, but it also means if you opt out and you realize that it's not as fast as you want it to be because the pre-ac is just lightning fast, you cannot opt back in. So please hear that. If you opt out of the pre-ac, I understand that there are a lot of extenuating circumstances and we want to help you in every way we can, but we cannot opt you back in if you opt out of the pre-ac from our site. And then one of the things that's also very unique with CIT is first-year offices are eligible for the EA, okay? So that's not common at Republic. At Republic, it requires that you have experience with a significant funded rate and low loss rate in order to get the advance. Because you're associated with CIT, you can get the EA in your first year. You just need 1 year experience to get the pre-ac. Okay? So let's move on and talk about new stuff, because everybody likes to hear about new things.
Carter, I don't mean to interrupt you for a second. I just want to let you know we have polling questions that come up while you're making these announcements about the loans and passing this information down to our wonderful AROs. And that we've asked them if they had good approval rates on their loans this year, and 80% of them said yes. So we're very happy with those results.
Well, I hope so, because if we only had 11% not approved and people said no, that would be terribly disproportionate.
Full disclosure, 16% of them did not opt in for EA. So that, so almost everyone's happy with their loan. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And of course, if that's not your circumstance to have a high approval, we are very receptive to feedback as well. So do not hesitate to call us so we can evaluate to see if there's some circumstance by which you may have been affected adversely. It does happen, although not very often. Thanks, Omar. So let's talk about some new stuff, because for a whole season, you didn't have anything new. And it felt like, we have a good program, but everybody likes new things. It helps you market. It helps you stay fresh and competitive in the marketplace. So as Alexis and Omar alluded to in the beginning of the presentation, is, other vendors are dramatically raising fees. They're raising either non-bank product e-file fees. They're taking a piece of transmitter fees, service bureau fees, which aren't charged in CIT, right? So your cost effectiveness in CIT is so far superior to some of these other programs because it's at such a low cost. You're making so much of the money that you're actually charging, right? So as other vendors raise their fees and CIT is committed to maintain the lowest price in the industry, Republic has decided to join forces to reinforce their value proposition. They came to us this summer and said, hey, this is what we're doing. What can you put in on this? So we went, we thought about it, we put our heads together, and experiencing significant cost to do so, and I'll explain, we are not going to increase the ERO fee for the EA and or pre-ac this next season. But what we are going to do is all of your taxpayers, whether they select the amount or are countered into the amounts, the $500 and $1,000 EA tiers have no additional charge to CIT taxpayers. So if they go and apply for $1,000 or $500, no finance charge. If they are countered because they didn't get approved for their $2,000, they got approved for $1,000, there's no finance charge. So you are actually, in essence, able to market. You have free options. Now, they are still paying back the base amount. only the principal, but it is no cost option to them except for the loan, which is really good for you, because even more so to say, not necessarily out of the gates, they want to select 500,000 as a free option. But in the instance they're countered to an amount that's less than the amount they selected, it really goes over very well to say, sorry you didn't get your 1,500 or 2,000, you got the 1,000, but guess what? There's no additional cost to you. That will really help reinforce and, kind of get you on the side of the fence of your taxpayers. Now, we don't just have one new thing, we have a few. So let's move on to another new thing. So I know that there are a couple people on this call that very specifically talked to me about this, and Margie and Alan probably as well, about a particular circumstance that occurs. All right. So for this, I'd like to preface with, Republic historically has developed its model uniquely each year based on the criteria associated with funding, return type in the prior year. But one of the things we didn't do is we did not look at what the amount they were approved for last year in the decisioning at the end from their application in the current year. So we will have a new model criteria at the end of decisioning for taxpayer advances. We had a lot of feedback about this. Especially when a taxpayer was approved last year for 2,000, but then they got 500 this year. Why? Well, sometimes there are adequate reasons for why. Their refund's going to be offset. It's not as likely to fund. They had a Schedule C with a W-2 with low withholding. These are several examples, not all particularly pointed to your circumstance. But what the model will now do is, if a taxpayer is funded consistently year to year, has a similar return type, and the refund probability of funding is high, we'll have criteria that will look at what the advance amount was approved for in the prior season when determining of the advance amount for the current season, right? So all things considered equal, you have a taxpayer that's come into you for 8 years. They've always funded their returns almost precisely the same. It's not something that the IRS is specifically targeting. Then they should be approved for the same amount as they were last year. Now, this is the first year we're doing it. We're working through it. That's not to say it will be perfect, but we will get there. And this is definitely a step in the right direction. And this is also to say that we heard you. We appreciate your feedback, and we try to make changes based on those things that you tell us. But wait, there's more. This next season, CIT came to Republic and asked, based on some of your feedback, what kind of opportunities their EROs could have to have another option in terms of a bucket, right? So Republic will be offering a doc prep fee bucket for CIT EROs this upcoming season, okay? A doc prep fee is specifically defined as the work involved for bank products and the additional time spent, the training, if you have to take the compliance test, the training of your employees. That's how this product was justified in being facilitated outside of tax prep, okay? Now, the doc prep fee is established at the time of enrollment. So when you go to enroll, if you choose to charge this fee, the fee can be established at the time of enrollment anywhere from $1 to $50 per taxpayer, okay? It is locked in to where every taxpayer you file will be assessed that fee as a separate line item on the bank app, and it is paid to the office upon funding along with tax prep fees. Now, it cannot change after the first accepted taxpayer bank application. So let's say you enroll and you meant to put in 30 and you put in 3. And then a few days later, you're going back and you're looking like, oh my gosh, I left off the 0. I need to go change it. That's fine. You can update it up until you start filing your taxpayers and get an accepted bank application here, okay? Now, because this fee is specifically defined as the time and effort spent around offering bank products, it is not allowed in the special exception states. So if your office is located in New York, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Maine, or Arkansas, you do not have the ability to charge this fee this upcoming year. Now, Omar and Alexis have asked about that, if there's any medium for that to change. At this time, there's not, but know that they are advocating on your behalf to see if there's an opportunity for that to change in the future. Now, you must acknowledge CIT terms for offering the doc prep fee prior to beginning the season in order to charge the fee. CIT is the reason why you have this, and there's some terms that you need to agree with in order to proceed. If you're interested in learning more about the doc prep fee, CIT is ready to answer your questions about the upcoming season offering. Now, as far as the working process to do so and what that looks like on our site, we are happy to answer questions about it. But as far as the terms and the acknowledgement with CIT, please reach out to Omar and Alexis and team to ask the questions about that, and they should be happy to help you. Omar, Alexis, did I say that all right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Any questions about this new feature, the doc prep fee, please just come to us for it. It requires some setup and some further, setup from our end, because it's not something we've done in the past. So we'll be more than happy to discuss all these features with you all as soon as you call us and start a case or send us an email. We'll take care of you.
All right. And then our last new thing, I mean, there are some other nuances that you'll see that we changed to benefit you, but our last new thing is really kind of an old thing, but it's just new for us because, as you know, last season, the IRS at the very end of the year said, hey, after 12/31, we're not going to flip everything to check and mail to the taxpayer. We're going to start honoring the direct deposit method on the return, even if a bank product. So following 12/31/21, the IRS started sending taxpayers refunds to us for the prior season. So we learned about this so late, we could only accommodate this manually, right? So next season, this upcoming season, you will have a separate report that looks much like your fee status by taxpayer that will only refer to the prior year. So any funding that occurs for a prior year on taxpayer will be listed on one report to indicate a prior season, and any funding received for the current year will be on another report to indicate the current season. But it will be important to review that because often when someone doesn't fund, you double up fees in the upcoming year to collect, and you'll want to make sure you're not overbilling someone on the basis that they did fund and you just didn't happen to notice that come in with your fees in a particular period. Now, because this year we had to do it manually, we entered all these comments in manually, and it's a little bit labor intensive, but there is a way you can find this. So the fee deposit history with detail shows a manual adjustment from prior year funding. Unfortunately, you can only run that within 7-day increments. So in order to determine any prior year funding that you had in the prior year for the current year, you have to go to the fee deposit history and do it no greater than 7-day increments to see. Alternatively, you must have enrolled and been approved with the same EFIN as last year in Republic. Now, EFIN changes. We will address that, although not on this call. But if you didn't use us, we didn't really have the medium to go pay you to your account this year. If you did, then you can still get paid from your prior year funding. So it's a good reason to come back, but we didn't specifically design it that way. It was one of those things where we felt like we really didn't have the good medium to pay people if they weren't with us in the current year. So again, this upcoming year, you will have a separate report to show this. But if you're looking to iron through anything last year, please go to the fee deposit history with detail, do it in 7-day increments, and you'll notice the taxpayer social, the fee adjustment received, and it'll say with a little comment, prior year funding on the right-hand side. Okay? Now, one of the big ones, pre-rep. Everybody loves some pre-rep, and surprisingly, CIT is the largest elector of pre-rep at Republic Bank, and we're happy to do so. Several good offices, you do a good job with it, you work with us. So there are a couple things that changed last year that we're doubling down and moving forward on this year, as well as some exceptions based on what Omar and Alexis may relate to us. So just be aware, any exception to be made in our pre-rep program is not from you calling and talking to Republic outside of, there's an issue you have to get resolved that you deal with Republic directly on. Please do continue to call us for that. But anything that's outside of our guidelines, you need to talk with Omar and Alexis because Republic will only facilitate that change based on their request. Okay, so we provide the advance as early as November 8th, with the opt-in being November 1st. So if you opt in November 1st, You complete the application for the money you want and the beneficial ownership. As of the 8th, you can have money deposited your account to be effective in your account by the 9th. It is still $500 to $40,000 per office, and we do withhold the 50% of your tax prep fees, and there's the 3% origination fee. Now, there are a couple things that are very unique to CIT. One, it only requires 50 bank products to qualify. Everywhere else in Republic, you have to have 100 RTs funded to qualify. But, as you have returns that you're doing, the non-bank product returns and bank product returns, we want to provide this opportunity for you as well and not limit your opportunity to get the money you need to advance the season because of that bank product volume. Also, renewal offices are now, this is in stone now, where it was just a pilot last year, are eligible for up to 25% of tax prep fees within each tier cap. So when you go into the drop down, you can see all the way to the top amount and you can select it. Republic can approve you up to 25% of fees as long as you don't, we're not exceeding the 40,000, we're not exceeding the high fee limit, but it certainly will provide you all the opportunity to have more money than we used to just limit to 10%. Now, new to CIT Republic offices that are coming in for the first year, and I mean not that they left and came back, but they've never been with CIT or Republic before, that first year they are limited to 10%. In subsequent years, they can get 25%. And then we are delaying the 100% collection until February 16th again. We can't get all the way to the PATH Act funding, but we got about a week and a day further than we did it prior because you really do need access to as much capital as you can because that PATH Act is when you kind of settle everything up, right? And then as of 11/1, you'll be able to opt in for that as well. We'll release it twice a week. Tuesdays and Fridays. Thank you very much, Margie. Margie pushed for you guys on that because we saw what happened year before last, where if someone didn't get it done before Friday, they had to wait till the following Friday, and you really need that money. So now that Tuesday, Friday helps manage the gap. And again, thank you, Margie. EROs are allowed to choose the maximum amount from the dropdown. It's not select the most you can and call in and say you need more. That caused a lot of back and forth and was really challenging for you all. So we've gone to allow you to select that. Okay. Wrap. The in season is just as it's always been. We start on the second day of hub testing. When we get X, we release all the accumulated fees up to that point, the 50%. You can get up to $250,000. Now, this is very important, okay? If you had a significant flux in your volume last year, or you're new to Republic but not new to the industry and coming into CIT, and your volume justifies that you would get a higher amount than what's estimated by WRAP, because although you can get up to $250,000, it starts as low as $25,000 and it's derived based on what your volume and fees appear to be. So if you go in and you see that amount too low and you're like, oh, I'm going to need more than that, you call us up, we'll change it, you'll go acknowledge terms, and we can increase that amount for you. We can even increase it in season if you hit your cap up to the $250,000. We only charge 2% on the wrap. It is open to new and renewal EROs. It says opt-in beginning and tick in October. I apologize. That's November 1st. And we are delaying the 100% collection closer to PATH Act of 216. People use it for their office expenses, pay their employees, to advertise to new and existing customers, update their computers, software, more, But we do realize that it's needed, and that opportunity does exist there for you. So this people are pretty familiar with. We won't spend a whole lot of time on. There are 3 different types of disbursement method: check, direct deposit, and net spend prepaid Visa. As you know, checks were a terribly small disbursement type this past year. It was like 7%. I think with COVID, people have really gotten more into electronic delivery, if not the card. There are several people taking cards off the shelf for the direct deposit information and using pass-through accounts, even if they don't have a checking account, because we were at 92% direct deposit. But for those that still insist receiving a check, here's the information pertaining to the checks. I would Republic checks and Wells Fargo checks are honored as far as, If you have a bank in your area that you would prefer to use or a check cashing, we do have a check cashing agreement that you can establish with a local bank in your area, which we have a lot of Eros do with great success. It's just very convenient to have someone right there and establish that with them too. The direct deposit, there are really only two things to call attention to here. If it goes out on Friday, it's not likely to show up in the account till a Monday. It goes out Tuesday, it's not going to show up till Wednesday. It also depends on the time of day that it goes out. So that gap in timing is really about the limits of a financial institution to post it. When we send those funds and we say they're out, that means that bank has them and is waiting to post them. So just keep that in mind. And with direct deposits being at an all-time high, please ensure that you're checking routing and account numbers for your taxpayers to ensure they're correct, because we have many more of these issues happening. Also, when you're having to mail a return, right? It's the EFIN plus the social and the digit year. We're going to 3 this next year. But also think about when a taxpayer has to call and check on, has to provide information for ID Verify or IP PIN. They'll ask them to verify their direct deposit information. Please, please, please interact with your taxpayers on the front end of the season to let them know that they are specifically verifying the bank information. If they verify their direct deposit information with the IRS, they're going to flip it to check and mail it to them, and you're not going to get paid. And it's happening more and more because there are more and more direct deposits occurring over checks. It used to be checks were so high that these issues were smaller, but at 92% direct deposit, there's a lot of them. And then the NetSpend prepaid Visa. One of the biggest benefits of the Visa card that EROs are coming to love is that they're front-loaded. So although fees are still paid upon funding, and every year I get 100 questions about this, and I understand, you'll see that the taxpayer got their refund, you didn't get your fees. Well, Republic has a revolving account with NetSpend. And what that means is when we get the ACH file from the Treasury, we send a card load to NetSpend to load those funds to the card right then and there, as long as that file is received before 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If after 4:30, it's the next day, although sometimes we do push the envelope a little bit, get it to 5:30. But your fees are still deposited associated with the effective date of the funding. So when you see a taxpayer's refund load on a NetSpend card, that means the next 3-4 days you're going to get your fee. But they're getting it well in advance of those funds actually being available. So just a few things, our support, ERO support, taxpayer support, our mobile app, our online tools, our taxpayer updates, our marketing assistance. One of the things that's nice about these presentations is that you can go back and refer to it later. I'll hit the highlights, but I won't read it verbatim because I'm not here to bore you. I'm here to actually tell you things that are interesting to you. So as far as our ERO support, we strongly encourage you to go to republicrefund.com. Log in with your EFIN and password. That's where your reports, supplies, status of taxpayers, the ERO forum, which I strongly encourage you to use. And then this is the number for customer service. And we love our quotes here. First year client, very pleased. I'll be back with Republic in 2022. That means 2023. It's 2022, 2023 season. I will share my experience with other firms I work with. Yay! Taxpayer support. This is so important, y'all. The average taxpayer calls 3 times per disbursement, and that wastes your time, especially when they can check IRS, where's my refund? And if it doesn't show the refund's been released, why are they really calling you? So I strongly encourage you to have taxpayers go check republictaxpayer.com. Okay, that will tell them the status of their refund, and they only have to put in information they already have. Of course, the IRS website for Where's My Refund is always good as well, but republictaxpayer.com will save you hundreds of calls in a season. Okay, or you can direct them to the 866-581-1050 as well. Allow us to help you answer those questions to get them off your plate. The mobile app, listen. if for no other reason to see how busy your day is, it's worth installing the mobile app. Some people may not use all the tools on the mobile app, but there are a couple things they'll always do. They'll pull it up, see how many checks they have to release. Oh, crap, I got to get to the office. I got 100 checks to print. Oh, I'm getting $36,000 in fees deposited today, right? Those snapshot views that give you an idea of what your day looks like, how you're going to manage paying your expenses, your employees, can very quickly be derived by a couple clicks from the mobile app. It's worth installing it for just those reasons, even if you just do the first couple clicks.
Yeah, the mobile app is great. And if you guys need help getting that set up or having problems accessing it, obviously you can call Republic, but also give us a call. We'll help you out with that as well, because it's a really good tool and I feel it's being completely underutilized sometimes.
It's true. Well, and just a brief interlude, COVID really proved to us that we weren't as good at interacting electronically as we thought, right? I used to do taxes myself back in the day, and I learned old school, where it was heads down data entry until the line was done. There was a line out the door as far as you could see, all the seats full, and everybody would go crazy until the line was done. And then you're usually starved and your eyes were bugging out because you just had everything floating through your head. But you knew you were getting your paid and you felt like you were just banging it out. It doesn't look like that anymore, although it is changing a little bit because the new norm has gone back to a little more normal. There is much more of a need to be able to organize your day and operate electronically. People sending information to you, dropping it off in particular times and appointments, and people are having to learn how to operate in a digital age. For instance, how many of you guys use e-signature now? You probably used to use e-signature a fraction of the time, and now it's the go-to, right? So definitely learn how to be more effective with your time, because some people's ability to grow their business has nothing to do with their skill or ability. It has to do with managing time. So, sorry, I digress. So online tools. Listen, this is one of the things I get excited about because we took our electronic forms submission online, not this past season, but the season before. This is the first season, and we grew pretty substantially this past season. This is the first season where we had same-day delivery from our form submissions. Now, granted, if you submit a check reissue without a voided check, or you submit something without a signature, we can't complete that at that time. But assuming what was submitted was what was needed to proceed, we were literally had same-day turnaround even through peak this season. So the online submission was really way to go. You do have 24/7 access to reporting customer status. Check the status of your business applications. The wrap, the pre-act opt-in, the pre-wrap opt-in. It's also how you order supplies, the training webinars, tutorials, and the ERO forums. We have a lot of people use the ERO forum now to bounce things off one another about certain questions just in their area. Just understanding what traffic looks like in North Georgia versus South Texas, right? People are using that to interact to kind of see what the flow is nationwide. So again, we love our quotes. I use all of these tools every year and they help my small business run extremely well. I have worked with other banks before who didn't offer some of this assistance. This does make a difference. Yeah. So again, we're talking about utilizing your tools to be most effective, and taxpayers calling 3 times per disbursement. Well, the taxpayer text updates. This is really important just to think about this, okay? If you're a larger office, you need to stagger that message a longer period of time. If you're a smaller office, you may not even need it, right? It just depends on what your workday looks like, right? On the day, if you're a 1,000 RT office and you have 100 checks released, you sometimes want to delay that message by 12 hours, 24 hours, so you can get all the checks printed and in their file, so you have all that ready for when they get there, as opposed to someone showing up and having them all sit on the printer and not having to go through them and having to thumb through it, and then people show up behind them. So learn to use your tools based on your needs. And this allows you to delay the message taxpayers receive based on the print confirmation, right? anywhere from no time to 24 hours. And over 50% of RT customers chose this option last year. It was huge, and it greatly reduced the amount of calls people were receiving as well. Well, some people will call for any reason, even when they have the answer in front of them because they don't believe it. But for most, right? Marketing assistance, we do provide you free marketing. Marketing will be shipped in December with your check stock. We do it in Spanish. We also send out the state-specific items to you as well in whatever font and color paper they're supposed to be on outside of, the oral disclosures or the written disclosures, but the posting requirements, we will provide you that information. We do send it out early December with the checks, some sample marketing materials, the training materials, and education materials. Now, we don't have the big 3-foot by 5-foot all-weather banner now, but that's not a problem because I'm telling you right now, the ones that are resonating so well are those feather banners. I don't know what about it is, but those feather banners out on the street, people are really responding well to them. Now, your original marketing materials are shipped out for free. Some of the ones that are a little more expensive can have a cost, or if you're trying to order like 7 of them. But for the most part, what you get in your initial marketing shipment and estimated to the size of your office has no cost to you. And we are expanding our digital footprint. So for social media and your website, we have taken on from the bank some of the social media stuff. So you may not see as much of it expanded this season as next season, but we are really expanding our footprint for the type of marketing and advertising that we're helping you with through social media and online. We do currently have a variety of print ad templates that are available for customization and downloading, because that also saves you time in getting approved if you have your own marketing with our marketing department, right? Because if you use our marketing, you don't need approval. If you're going to make your own marketing, it's really good to use some of the templates, because then you pass the checkbox for meeting the compliance for the disclosures really quickly. And then the lovely Alexis found this very important to share with you, and we do as well. As you know, Republic we consider ourselves to be stewards of the industry and best practices. So there are state and local requirements you must adhere to. There are oral disclosures, and these specific items are to be explained to the customer and are provided in information that you receive either through software or from the bank. The written disclosures as well, although mainly that changes within the bank application type based on the state you're in, and these are the states where they apply. And then the posting requirements, you don't need to worry about, as long as you're, well, let me put that a different way. You don't need to worry about having to acquire. If your office is located in that state, Republic will send you that poster in your supplies shipment for you to hang for the taxpayer to see. And those are the states where that is a requirement, but we will send those to you as well. And then just to make it a little easier, for the states for which there's a requirement to register either for the RT, CTEC certification, or what they still refer to as the RAL, which is long since dead, here are the different states, and these are actually hyperlinked to take you directly to the site if you're located in that state. It's also on page 28 of the program guidelines, but you do also have the ability just to click on from here. Okay. And then, of course, we're always happy to help you every season. This number right here reaches my team in particular, 888-676-2056. We do consider ourselves kind of the tier 2 support. Everything gets escalated to us because we're kind of the subject matter experts. And then, of course, we pretty much interact with Omar and Alexis daily. So we're always here and happy to help, and we really do appreciate your business. We hope that you felt heard this season and some of the things that we did, because we really did take the time to read the ERO survey and try to tailor the offering specific to the things that we were hearing.